Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the 5 greatest Charles Ives Conductor. You know, when I was growing up, going to Hopkins Grammar School in New Haven, which is where Ives himself went before going to Yale, and we used to do these Ives things. The Yale people would come and do an Ives concert, and we had sort of Ives symposia for the whole school. It was really kind of fun. I never would have believed in 100 million, billion, trillion years that I could come up with a list of 5 Ives conductors. You know, conductors who really specialized and promoted the music of Ives. And not only that, but there are more of them. There's some room here for you to add some names if you'd like, which I just find astonishing. It just tells you how mainstream Ives has actually become. And I'm really, really happy about that because he was, of course, truly an original genius and a fascinating composer and an extraordinary person all around. And, it gives you a good feeling inside to know that music that's experimental, that's challenging, that's can really find a place, find a niche, maybe a tiny niche, teeny tiny niche, but it's a niche, and it's a great thing. It really is, and we are full of, or spoiled actually, for choice in terms of recordings. So here then are the 5 greatest Ives conductors, a list on which you can build. First, James Sinclair. Now, James Sinclair runs the whole Ives thing at Yale. And since I happen to live right next to the Ives thing at Yale, within shouting distance, I feel I should give the hometown team a push. But seriously, he's actually not just an Ives scholar, but a very, very persuasive Ives conductor, and he's recorded a tremendous amount of Ives's music, just about all of the orchestral music, not quite all of it, because I think he hasn't done the 4th Symphony. Hopefully he will at some point. But he's done it for Naxos, and they're extremely fine performances. And yes, he's a great resource to go to when you're building your Ives collection. He's sort of the reference. It's really very, very handy to have him about. Next, Michael Tilson Thomas. Now, Michael Tilson Thomas has always done Ives. He's always done interesting American music. Remember, he also did Ruggles, although I don't have a list of the 5 greatest Ruggles conductors, because he would be mostly all 5, him and Dohnányi, about whom we will discuss. Well, he's coming up. Let me just put it that way. Anyway, Tilson Thomas did all of the symphonies multiple times, actually. First in Chicago, and in the Concertgebouw, which is kind of cool, for Sony, and then some stuff in San Francisco. So it's quite a collection, including the orchestration of the Concord Sonata, which is kind of interesting. But I think he did that, didn't he? Or did Henry Brand, who did the orchestration, conduct it? I don't remember. Anyway, the bottom line is Tilson Thomas did a big pile of Ives. And he's always promoted Ives music and done it extremely persuasively. So he also has to be on the list. But the Ives pioneer, really a pioneer, was Leopold Stokowski, which is, it's sort of incredible when you think about it. I mean, he did that amazing and still fabulous recording of the 4th Symphony, the premiere performance, the premiere recording, the premiere everything for Columbia in the early 60s. And then he did the 2nd orchestral set, and he did the Robert Browning Overture. And Stokowski was a marvel. You know, it really was. He was one of the most extraordinary podium geniuses we've ever had, because although he's famous for, tinkering, toying with the classics, with reorchestrating and cutting and slicing and chopping and whatever, he was the greatest exponent of contemporary music who ever lived, probably, along with Hermann Scherchen. But Scherchen was crazy, so was Stokowski, so what the hell. But he was incredibly faithful to the actual text when he did contemporary music. Most of the time. I mean, not all the time, but most of the time. And his Ives, Ives was just so complicated that I think Stokowski was happy to get through it. Let's put it that way. But he did it extremely persuasively. really, really well. So he's got to be on any shortlist. His second orchestral set on London Decca Phase 4 was really just tremendous as well. Then Christoph von Dohnányi, who also did Ives and Ruggles, he put them together, which makes sense in a way. But the two composers were friends, and they were both the American avant-garde from the turn of the 20th century. But Dohnányi's Ives is fabulous. Oh my God, it's great. His Fourth Symphony was terrific. His smaller orchestral pieces, the orchestral sets, amazing. He brought all of the Cleveland Orchestra's refinement and transparency and textural fidelity to Ives's crazy, wild, seemingly, random at times, potpourris of goodies. And he made them sound absolutely wonderful. He made them actually, and Ives might have objected to this a little bit, sound kind of mainstream, part of the mainstream classical music experience, contemporary music experience. And it's kind of funny, actually. But he played it with such dedication. I saw him do the Fourth Symphony. It was just amazing. So that's 4. And number 5, Andrew Litton, who did an absolutely spectacular cycle of the Ives symphonies. It's probably the best one, and it's hard to find now. I just was looking on Amazon. One of the discs, the one with the Fourth Symphony on it, was what they were charging $54. I suspect it may be out of print, technically, with Hyperion, and these are, just remaindered copies. It's really a pity if it's true, because that cycle with Dallas is absolutely first rate. Hyperion did a few things with Litton in Dallas when, he was there. They did that fabulous Rachmaninoff piano concerto cycle with Stephen Huff, and they did the Ives symphonies, and they're absolutely magnificent. I really, really hope that they remain available at a reasonable price, or that they're still findable somehow, because they are wonderful, wonderful performances. It's possible they're available now on streaming services, which would be really, really great, because you should hear them. He uses the latest editions, and they are first-class performances. But there's more in the world of Ives, so I expect you guys to fill in the gaps. These are, they may not be the greatest, because, of course, my selection is the greatest, always, without question. But you can supplement. It's okay. Feel free. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.